My beard, a playoff homage, or a cry for help? Find out in my note.
Plus, is commentator Mike Milbury a misogynist, or is it just his time of the month? Find out more on Serious Hockey Talk. Welcome to Serious Hockey Talk. I'm Keith Carey.
And I'm Tom Goss.
And here's what's going on around the league.
Tuukka Rask went home early in the middle of the Bruins playoff run. No news yet if he is returning to his U.S. home or his original Elvish country of Rivendell.
Blue Jackets defenseman Seth Jones played 65 minutes in a 5-overtime game. It's the longest an athlete has spent on ice since Ted Williams' frozen head.
Matthew Tkachuk had to watch his team lose after a frustratingly timed injury. Usually, when Tkachuk has to watch frustrated, sex is involved.
Carolina Hurricanes coach Rod Brindamore was fined $25,000 for calling the NHL, quote, a joke. He's currently trying to raise $2 million on GoFundMe to call Gary Bettman a dickless hobgoblin.
The NHL is the only major sport to not have one positive COVID test. At one point, the league believed that every player tested positive, but then they realized they mixed it up with the VD testing. I'm saying hockey players, fuck.
The New York Rangers won the first overall draft pick and are expected to select winger Alexis Lafreniere. So a French-Canadian is going to New York. Just a huge win for the concept of rudeness.
Brendan Gallagher broke his jaw on Matt Niskanen's stick.
Settled down, Gallagher getting looked at again. Here's what he was talking about in the corner. Was there a high stick? I got the stick of Niskanen.
Niskanen claimed that Gallagher would have never gotten hurt if he hadn't gagged and used his teeth.
Gritty refereed a game of hockey played by puppies at Philadelphia's Wells Fargo Center. In related news, a bunch of dogs in Philadelphia are dead now.
Mike Milbury stated that it was great there were no women in the bubble. He quickly apologized and changed his stance when he realized he had to do his own laundry.
Milbury later claimed the comments were made not by him, but by his evil twin brother, Andrew Dice Milbury. Normally on Serious Hockey Talk, we focus mostly on the NHL. However, there are a lot of hockey players around the world who don't get a lot of attention, so we like to take a moment to look at one interesting player.
Eliezer Sherbatov is a left winger from Israel. He's made a career for himself playing on teams in Europe, and he's coming off a strong 55-point season in Kazakhstan. But the Jewish forward made news when he joined a new team based in Auschwitz. No, really, that fucking happened. A Polish team based in the town of Oswiecim, home of the notorious death camp, drafted him to fill out the roster. Sherbatov's contract became available after his previous head coach cut his foreskin. There was a long bidding war between the Auschwitz hockey team and their division rivals, the Epstein Islanders. But in the end, Auschwitz won out, and not a moment too soon. They need strength on the left side because their injured reserve list has 6 million players. Some Jewish leaders were outraged by Sherbatov's choice, saying it's disrespectful for a Jew to play in Auschwitz. But Sherbatov disagrees. He wants to be a hero for the Jewish people, like Sandy Koufax, but for a real sport. And this Auschwitz team is trying to move away from their location's dark past. They insist their ovens will only be used to bake skates. Despite the controversy, Sherbatov remains optimistic about his future on Schindler's Do Not Cut list. Everyone here has been so welcoming, except for the team doctor who keeps trying to measure my skull. I look forward to joining my new teammates on the ice, but probably not in the showers. Go Auschwitz!
24 teams entered the playoffs, and now only 8 remain. The first of the matchups, we go to Colorado Avalanche versus the Dallas Stars. Now, I think that many people overlooked the Dallas Stars, including me and my partner. The Dallas Stars have been playing incredibly well. Their defense and their defensive play is what got them into the playoffs, I believe. That's solid, and now they're having some explosive offensive games.
And the thing with Dallas is, we talked a lot of shit on Dallas. I think a lot of people did.
We did.
Up until halfway through that first round, they showed no signs of life. They really looked kind of DOA. They looked like they were going to get destroyed. And then halfway through that Calgary one, something flipped on them, and I finally kind of got this team.
Yeah.
And really, they were all over the place. The scoring was unbelievable because that Calgary team scores. That Calgary team beats you up and gets goals.
Yeah.
That's how they win. And I remember we were watching sort of like in the background when we were doing something else that last game of the series, and Calgary's up 3-0. We're like, oh no. And then 5 minutes later, it's like, how is it 6-3?
The Colorado Avalanche, arguably the best team on the West Coast.
I mean, if Calgary got beat up, fucking Arizona their mom got murdered. Colorado has been locked in the entire time they've been in
They haven't had even the games they've lost.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've had a bad game.
Like if Dallas is this sort of come from behind story, like okay, they were falling off and now they're kind of getting their groove back. The groove is present for Colorado. Like Dallas really still, I think, is in a position of weakness here. That said, this is the only series we've seen any of yet because we're recording this Sunday afternoon. And so far, Dallas is up 1-0.
The style they're playing, I think, will limit Colorado's opportunities.
Right.
And it basically boils down to, can Colorado, penetrate them consistently? But Dallas has to do that and find ways to score.
I tell you, I'm never upset when I'm getting penetrated consistently.
I know, you're a whore. But we'll see. I still think I have Colorado to win this, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, Colorado I still think is gonna pull this one off, but I think it's gonna go to 7 potentially. I think this is gonna be a fight. I think Dallas very well could win it.
Next, we will be banging out the West with Las Vegas versus Vancouver.
The Vancouver Canucks, I really like that team. They were just sort of ignored. They were kind of right in that middle area where it was like they're around and they'll lose in the first round or something. And then they kind of made the St. Louis Blues look stupid.
I don't know about anyone who is like, I think Dallas and Vancouver are going to be a threatening presence in the conference finals. Right.
And they're helped by they got Quinn Hughes, who is so good and who is on a rookie contract, so he don't cost nothing yet. Everyone good on that team, their contract is about to be up. So
this is kind of their last shot.
Vancouver needs to win right now because they can't pay everybody next year.
Right. Well, and Markstrom, I'd say a huge part of that success is Markstrom. Markstrom, I think, is 30 or 31, and he is playing like phenomenally. He's catch, block, kick. He's doing it all.
I like your goalie demonstrations.
Yeah, he's shutting people.
Catch, block, kick.
Yes.
Headbutt.
Yeah, he's
Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy.
Yeah. Reach. He's stopping the puck. He's
the most exciting move in hockey. Reach.
Well, he's playing fantastic. Because if a goalie gets hot into the playoffs, depending on how hot they get, it can be very encouraging to the rest of the team.
Right.
It can heighten their level and keep them in games that they should lose, and that's exactly what Markstrom's done. The two teams everyone is expecting to win is Vegas and Colorado. And they've played dominantly throughout the entire playoffs, but they have not had a ton of adversity. They've not had a ton of can we rebound? And if those other teams, those two underdogs, can shake them, they can ride that into the conference finals.
Right.
I think one of those two will be an upset.
Mm-hmm. I think Dallas is more likely to beat Colorado than Vancouver is to beat Vegas. I think, goaltending aside, Vegas looked so strong in that series against Chicago. Just clinical. There was really nothing you could do against them. You couldn't shut the offense down. They have firepower. They also just have experience on their side. These are dudes who just all together know what they're doing. They work incredibly well together. I like the way the team's playing. There's been no There's been no outsized sort of weak point for me. Almost every other team, there's one thing at least I can look at and be like, well, there's your big problem. And I don't, even if Fleury is the biggest problem they have, I don't know how much Fleury is going to be starting this postseason anyway.
Next up, we go to the East. Florida and Massachusetts. Boston versus Tampa Bay. Blue versus yellow. Boston played so poorly that we all thought they would go away in the first round.
Right.
And they are starting to look like themselves again.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay has had a lot of injuries, but they've found ways to make it click. Big thanks mostly to Braden Point, in my opinion.
He's really stepped up, especially in the
clutch moments.
And in the vacuum where there is no Stamkos, too. I think he has really come through as the guy you can rely on to score when it needs to get done.
The perfection line seems to be perfection, then imperfection, then perfection, then where is Pasternak, then perfection, then why are you skating that direction? It'll flip on and it'll flip off.
Right.
Some of the goals they've scored have been phenomenal.
Even in that series against Carolina, there was no point where I really thought, like, oh, Boston looks dominant.
I do think that Boston beating a team with that high quality does prove that the preliminary games were somewhat of a fluke.
Some of those teams who weren't really clicking in those preliminary games were going to come out and be the team you remember them being once the actual playoffs started.
Boston.
And some of them weren't.
St. Louis.
I like Tampa Bay in this. I think Tampa Bay... I had Tampa Bay somewhat written off. I mean, obviously they're a very good team, but I just saw a lot of places where they could get beat very easily. And when they played that Columbus series, and when they played that 5 OT game, the first game of their series, that should have been Columbus's game in terms of that's exactly what Columbus wanted to do against Tampa Bay.
Sure.
They wanted to grind them out because Columbus was not prepared to outskill Tampa Bay.
Right.
But where Tampa Bay has stepped up in the offseason, I think, compared to last season when they got swept by Columbus, is they're a much tougher team. They're a much grittier team. They have the grind that they didn't have to go with the skills guys.
I would argue, in terms, if you were considering just two things, veterans and talent, I think, I wouldn't even say veterans, experience and talent. These might be the best two teams remaining in the playoffs. I don't remember a playoffs where those teams were not in it.
Right.
It's been years since those teams did not make the playoffs, and if they did miss it, it's 1 year. It feels like every 3 years Boston is in the Stanley Cup Finals losing. And they've been there, they won it. Boston was there in the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and I don't think they fell apart. I think Boston will take this because they still have injuries in Tampa, and the injuries seem to be a reoccurring theme with that team.
There is part of me that just wants Tampa Bay to win because I want Boston to both lose this round and Tom Brady to Tampa Bay. Like Florida is just coming in and fucking taking Boston's lunch.
That was a better point made so much more concisely.
You're here for the analytics. I'm here for the easy part.
That wasn't a pun.
You know what I meant. The low-hanging fruit. Shut up, I'm tired. All right.
Low-hanging fruit. Did you take out your ball sack? Keith takes Tampa. I take Boston. Next, Battle of the Shitty City. New York versus Philly.
And here's the thing, look, I know I've been an outspoken Flyers fan on this show. They beat Montreal.
They did. Wow, what an accomplishment.
Okay. The Flyers looked I only want to say they looked great in the Montreal series. The truth is they didn't look as good as they've looked in the past. They looked rattled. I think that Montreal team got in their head in a way they weren't ready for. It led to a very sloppy, violent, bloody series that very fun to watch. Not the kind of hockey they excel at. They really got bailed out of a lot of situations by Carter Hart. And what I love about Carter Hart is that he's not a very compelling human. Like, he just looks like Haley Joel Osment, but now he's just this pale, white, doughy man who's just like, I guess I catch the puck when they shoot them at me. But the NHL is so desperate for like a star because all the famous people got knocked out already that they're really leaning on him to be like, this is the guy, everybody. Check out cool-ass Carter Hart. And then it just, hello, everybody. Oh, I'm 20. I sure do like Carey Price. He's a goob. He did play very well. That's it. I think based on the performance that we saw there and the ease with which the Flyers got rattled, they're in a lot of trouble against the Islanders. They were a confounding team. The Islanders embarrassed the Capitals so bad that they all looked stupid and their coach got fired.
Right.
Like 2 days later, they fired the head coach of the Capitals because apparently the team was going to be fucking suck this year.
Yes, be fucking suck.
Yes.
We're not gonna be fucking suck this year!
The Capitals never should have let go of Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz was known as a guy who can't win it, and then when he did win it, all the credit went to Ovechkin and Holtby, and those players did win the cup.
Right.
But he's a very good coach. He brought Nashville into playoff contention. He brought, I think somebody else too. The point is, he's been making the playoffs.
This and more expert analysis on Serious Hockey Talk.
But the point is, he's always bringing teams to the playoffs. He's won a cup with them. Now that same team has a different coach. The key pieces are the same. And guess what? Barry Trotz embarrassed his old team.
And I think that if he plays that same kind of hockey against the Flyers, and if they are as relentless as they were against the Caps, Philly's in trouble.
They've stepped up, Barzal, Sasika, like they're players.
Beliveau has been putting up exceptional goals.
Wow, and some of the goals he's scored.
Right. Like the Flyers' greatest strength is that they have a lot of pieces that can be moved around to different lines. They can reassemble that team in different ways, but those guys have such good chemistry with each other that it always works. You can move a guy from the fourth line to the first line, and it doesn't break the system. But for that to work, they need to stay focused and they need to stay on point. And what they did against Montreal was not that. Cool.
Who are you taking?
Philly. I thought that was implied.
It wasn't, because you talked about how the Islanders could beat them for quite a while.
Yeah, but then I talked about, Philly. I got Philly in this one. But I'm not as confident as I would like to be.
I'm taking New York.
All right.
Fuck you, Gritty. I'm the only hairy monster who deserves the attention. You don't think I can murder puppies? I can murder puppies while I'm awake or asleep or eating a pizza with my mouth or my hands. Gritty fucking sucks. Go New York.
So that's what we think. Tell us what you think down in the comments. Tell us why we're both somehow stupid and wrong. Real quick, we want to take a look at some of the comments from some of our other videos. Steven asks, how would you suggest someone who only half watches the Super Bowl every year get into hockey or sports in general?
Personally, I think there's two fun ways to do it. If it's during the regular season, follow a team. Just one team. And, you'll learn a lot about the league that way. My favorite way to get into it is go to highlights.
Yeah.
They're fun. Cut to the excitement. See what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, Tom got me into hockey. Tom,
mostly through video games.
The video games were a big part of it because, honestly, we've had some free time in the past few months. And we played a lot of video games. But also, the highlight thing is so true because what I did is basically when you started kind of showing me hockey and telling me about it, I was like, okay, I don't totally get the whole thing, but I like cool goals where like the goalie just gets like faked out and burned. So I started looking at like Patrick Kane highlight reels or like Pavel Datsyuk stuff. And I was like, all right, well, I like these big ass hits. So I started looking at like Chris Pronger stuff and Chara hits.
The fights. You interested in fights?
Yeah.
Watch the fight highlights.
And
do fucking odd positions? Watch the goalie. They're so flexible.
And also, like, another thing that's kind of fun, too, is, okay, so you have a picture of a Pikachu as your profile picture, so I assume you're a fucking nerd. If you're like a nerd and you want to get into sports, there are storylines as good as any comic book storyline floating around in there. There are great beefs. There are legendary fuck-ups. Look up Sean Avery and Martin Brodeur. If you've never heard of it, look it up. Look up the Avery rule is what you're looking for. And tell me that doesn't make you think hockey's great.
Look up Jaromir Jagr fucks his teammate's girlfriend. And the blackmail that ensued and the apathy involved. There's a lot of fun stuff out there.
Yeah, so dig around, see what you like. Thank you guys for digging around and liking this. If you enjoyed it, like the video, share it with a friend, tag somebody who'll give a fuck, and leave a comment down below. Other than that, we'll be back next week with another episode of Serious
Hockey
Talk. Boom.
Not breaking.
Okay.
Matthew Tkachuk.
Baby, how long will you keep me in the penalty box? Baby, I'm wrong, but it's lonely in the penalty box. I know I broke the rules, but rules are broken by fools. Baby, how long will you keep me in the